Bermuda Triangle has captured imaginations with stories of vanished planes and ships, but now a new scientific theory claims to finally have the answer.
So I need you to sit down for this one, because what researchers have actually found changes everything we thought we knew about the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle has spent decades being blamed for everything from alien abductions to underwater portals and ghost ships. But when researchers finally started mapping parts of the ocean floor in detail, what they found was honestly way stranger than the myths. We're talking wrecks hidden for decades, underwater landscapes that look almost unreal, and conditions so brutal that entire ships could disappear without leaving much behind at all. And the deeper scientists looked, the clearer it became that the real story of the Bermuda Triangle might be far more unsettling than the legend people grew up hearing. Setting the scene. What is this place actually? But first, before we get to the drone footage, let me give you some context, because the Bermuda Triangle has been so thoroughly mythologized that most people don't even know what it actually is. And I promise the real geography is way more interesting than the conspiracy version. The Bermuda Triangle sits in the northwest Atlantic Ocean. It's roughly bounded by 3 points: Miami, Florida, the island of Bermuda, and San Juan, Puerto Rico. Depending on who's drawing the lines, that covers somewhere between 500,000 and 1.5 million square miles of open ocean. That's an area roughly the size of the entire Mediterranean Sea. And here's something that should immediately raise your eyebrow. The Bermuda Triangle does not officially exist. It's not on any world map. The U.S. Board on Geographic Names doesn't recognize it. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, has officially stated it has no anomalies whatsoever. And the name itself, coined in 1964 by a writer named Vincent Gaddis in a pulp magazine. A pulp magazine, people. So from day one, this was essentially a story that sold copies. But here's the irony. The real oceanography of this region is absolutely wild. And the fact that it got buried under decades of Atlantis theories and alien abduction speculation, that's what makes the actual science so worth digging into. So, if the experts have been dismissing the triangle for years, why did researchers keep sending equipment down there? What were they actually looking for? The ocean floor. What's actually down there? Here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. And I mean that in the best, most science-forward way possible. The ocean floor beneath the Bermuda Triangle region is not a flat, featureless nothing. It is dramatic terrain. We're talking about the Puerto Rico Trench, the deepest point in the entire Atlantic Ocean. The lowest measurement recorded there is called the Milwaukee Depth, clocking in at 27,493 feet below the surface. That is over 5 miles straight down. To put that in perspective, if you dropped Mount Everest into the Puerto Rico Trench, the peak would still be over a mile underwater. When researchers send down remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, essentially sophisticated underwater drones, into these depths, they're navigating crushing pressure, near zero visibility, and temperatures close to freezing. And what they've found down there has been genuinely disturbing, not because of the supernatural, but because of what it reveals about how these ships and planes actually disappeared. Sonar technology has in recent years allowed scientists to map the seafloor of the Bermuda Triangle region with unprecedented detail. What those scans revealed were features like massive underwater cliff faces, deep canyon systems, and methane hydrate deposits scattered across the seabed. And those last ones, the methane hydrates, are worth lingering on for a second. Here's the theory, and it's a real scientific one, not internet speculation. Methane gas locked in ice-like crystal formations on the ocean floor can, under the right geological conditions, be released suddenly and violently. When a massive methane bubble rises through the water column, it reduces the density of the seawater so dramatically that a ship sitting on the surface above it could, in theory, lose buoyancy almost instantly and sink. No warning, not even a distress call, just gone. A 2003 study explored this hypothesis in relation to the Bermuda Triangle. Now, and this is important, researchers at Southern Methodist University studied the methane hydrate deposits in the region and found that the last major gas venting event in that area was approximately 20,000 years ago. So while the mechanism is real and theoretically terrifying, there's currently no scientific evidence that it has caused modern ship disappearances in the triangle. But the deposits are still down there, sitting there, waiting. If the natural geography of this region is this extreme, what happens when researchers actually go looking for the wrecks? And what did they find when they did? The ghost ship that came back, SS Cotopaxi. Now this is the part where I need you to pay very close attention, because this story is genuinely one of the most extraordinary real-life maritime mysteries I've ever come across. And it has a verified, science-backed ending that most people have never heard. November 29, 1925. A steam-powered cargo ship called the SS Cotopaxi set sail from Charleston, South Carolina, bound for Havana, Cuba. On board, 32 crew members and a hold full of coal. 2 days into the voyage, the ship sent a wireless distress signal, a signal that, for nearly a century, nobody knew existed. And then, silence. No ship, no bodies, no wreckage. For 95 years, the SS Cotopaxi was one of the Bermuda Triangle's most cited mysterious disappearances. It was referenced in movies. It spawned ghost stories. It was Exhibit A for everyone who claimed the triangle was consuming ships whole and leaving no trace. Then Michael Barnett got involved. Barnett is a marine biologist with NOAA. That's the same government agency that says the triangle has no anomalies. And he had been quietly diving a wreck off the coast of St. Augustine, Florida, for about 15 years. The wreck was known locally only as the Bear Wreck, nicknamed by the fishers and spearfishers who frequented it without knowing its history. Barnett had a gut feeling about it, so he started digging. He contacted British historian Guy Walters, who went to the archives at Lloyd's of London, the ship's insurers, and found something extraordinary: the previously unknown distress signal sent on December 1st, 1925. By mapping the ship's route against the coordinates in that signal, they were able to pinpoint the location. It matched the Bear Wreck exactly. Barnett and his team dove the site, measuring everything they could access. The ship's dimensions matched the Cotopaxi's blueprints. The boiler placement was exactly right. The scale of the vessel lined up with the historical records down to the detail. It was confirmed. The Bear Wreck was the SS Cotopaxi, sitting about 35 miles off the coast of Florida. And the underwater footage and investigation told a completely unsupernatural story. The ship's wooden hatch covers over the cargo holds had deteriorated badly. When a tropical storm hit on December 1st, 1925, water flooded the cargo hold below. The ship would have gone down fast. 32 men, no survivors, no mystery, just a badly maintained ship caught in a storm. The Bermuda Triangle didn't consume it. Rotten wood and a tropical storm did. So one ghost ship gets explained. But what about the ones that remain unsolved? And what does the ocean floor look like where they disappeared? Flight 19 and the USS Cyclops, what the data actually shows. Let's talk about the two most famous disappearances that the Bermuda Triangle myth machine runs on, because the real stories behind them are somehow more dramatic than the alien version, and the scientific conclusions are the opposite of mysterious. Flight 19, December 5th, 1945. 5 U.S. Navy Avenger torpedo bombers take off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a training mission. They never come back. No wreckage was ever found. A rescue plane sent after them, a PBM Mariner with 13 men aboard, also disappeared. 14 aircraft, dozens of men, gone. This became the founding myth of the Bermuda Triangle. Here's what the investigation actually showed. The flight leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, became convinced mid-flight that his compass was malfunctioning and that he was flying over the Florida Keys when he was actually flying over the Bahamas. He turned the squadron east, out over open ocean, rather than west toward the mainland. The planes flew until they ran out of fuel at night over open water. The aircraft were not equipped with life rafts. The sea that night had 15-foot waves. The Gulf Stream, one of the fastest-moving ocean currents on Earth, runs through that region and can scatter wreckage and carry debris hundreds of miles within hours. That's why no wreckage was found, not interdimensional portals. The Gulf Stream. And the rescue Mariner? PBM Mariners of that era were nicknamed flying gas tanks by crews because of their tendency to explode mid-air. Witnesses on a merchant vessel reported seeing an explosion in the sky that night. That's almost certainly what happened to the rescue plane. The USS Cyclops, March 1918. A U.S. Navy collier ship with 306 people aboard disappears without sending a single distress signal somewhere between Barbados and Baltimore. No wreckage, no bodies. To this day, no confirmed explanation exists, and it remains the largest single loss of life in U.S. naval history outside of combat. This one is genuinely unexplained, and I'm not going to tell you otherwise. What I will tell you is what the most credible investigators point to. The ship was known to be overloaded, one of its engines was out of service, and it sailed directly through a region known for sudden, violent storms. The commanding officer had previously been court-martialed. Poor documentation of 1918-era incidents means the record is permanently incomplete. Mystery? Yes. Supernatural? The evidence doesn't support it. We know what the science says. We know what the ROVs and drones have found. So why, just why, does everyone still act like this place is cursed? The real scandal, how the myth was manufactured. Samerd. Okay, here's where the story takes a turn, because what happened to the Bermuda Triangle's reputation is genuinely a scandal, just not the kind involving aliens or lost cities. In 1974, a man named Charles Berlitz published a book simply titled The Bermuda Triangle. It became one of the best-selling nonfiction books of the decade. Berlitz claimed that ships and planes disappeared there at an extraordinary rate, that the disappearances defied scientific explanation, and, brace yourself, that the lost city of Atlantis might be involved. He offered no credible evidence for any of it. When investigators went back and checked the cases Berlitz cited as mysterious disappearances, they found that many had perfectly mundane explanations that Berlitz simply hadn't included. Some of the missing ships he cited had actually been found. Some of the disappearances didn't even occur within the Triangle's boundaries, and yet the book sold millions of copies and launched decades of documentaries, TV specials, and ongoing fascination, a mythology so sticky that it has genuinely outlasted the debunking. Here's what the U.S. Coast Guard officially concluded. The answer is probably that the area is a heavily traveled transportation route. That's it. High traffic volume means more incidents, the same way a busy highway has more fender benders than a country road. The World Wildlife Fund conducted a study ranking the world's most dangerous bodies of water, and the Bermuda Triangle didn't crack the top 10. NOAA's official position is that disappearances in the region are not at all unusual given the volume of traffic. The U.S. Navy does not recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a navigational hazard. The region does have genuinely extreme natural features that make it more dangerous than, say, a calm lake. The Gulf Stream can scatter wreckage in hours. Hurricanes and tropical storms form and intensify rapidly in this part of the Atlantic. The ocean depth, including the Puerto Rico Trench at 27,493 feet, makes recovery of sunken vessels functionally impossible. A magnetic anomaly called the agonic line, where true north and magnetic north align, passes through the region and has historically caused compass errors if not properly corrected. These are real, these are documented, these are the actual story. But Gulf Stream and poor documentation is a harder story to fall in love with than Atlantis and alien abduction. And that right there is the real conspiracy. So we've torn the myth apart, piece by piece. But here's the question that should really be keeping you up at night. What does this say about the stories we choose to believe, and why? Why we keep believing it, the psychology. I want to take a second and get a little real with you, because this is the part of the story that I think is actually the most fascinating. Why does the Bermuda Triangle myth persist? Scientists debunked it. Government agencies debunked it. Marine biologists with 15 years of actual dive experience in that ocean have found the mystery ships and provided entirely rational explanations. And yet, here you are, watching a video about it in 2025. Here I am, making it. The answer, according to researchers who study belief and cognition, comes down to something called confirmation bias. When something strange happens in the Bermuda Triangle, it gets reported as another triangle mystery. When something strange happens in the North Sea or the Bay of Bengal or the South Pacific, equally dangerous, equally trafficked bodies of water, nobody calls it a mystery. We remember the hits and forget the misses. We've mentally drawn a triangle around a region and started interpreting ordinary maritime tragedy as evidence of something supernatural. There's also something deeply human about wanting the unknown to have a dramatic answer. A cargo ship sinking because of rotten hatch covers and a tropical storm is a tragedy. It's sad. It's mundane. But a cargo ship vanishing into a dimensional portal? That's a story. That's something. And our brains are wired to prefer story over silence. The Berlitz book, the TV specials, the documentaries, the retellings across every medium, in every generation. Each one feeds the mythology, because the mythology captures something we genuinely want to believe, that there are still places in this world that resist explanation, and the actual science, the Gulf Stream, the storm patterns, the methane deposits, the sonar surveys, the ROV footage, showing rusted wreckage with rational explanations, quietly sits alongside all of it, waiting to be found. I'm not immune to this pull, by the way. So after all of this, after the drone footage, the found wrecks, the debunked myths, what's the honest conclusion? The real takeaway. Here's what I want you to walk away knowing. The Bermuda Triangle is a real place. A heavily trafficked stretch of the Northwest Atlantic Ocean between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. It has genuinely extreme natural features, one of the fastest ocean currents in the world, some of the most active hurricane tracks on the planet, the deepest point in the Atlantic at over 27,000 feet, and methane hydrate deposits that scientists continue to study. Ships and planes do disappear there. About 50 ships and 20 aircraft have been reported missing in the region over the decades, though the exact numbers are hard to verify given how poor the historical documentation was. And yes, some of those disappearances remain genuinely unexplained to this day. The USS Cyclops, most notably, has no confirmed explanation. That's real. But what the ROVs, the sonar surveys, the archival research, and the actual dive investigations have revealed, including the discovery of the SS Cotopaxi, which sat unidentified for 95 years, is that the overwhelming majority of these disappearances have rational explanations rooted in weather, human error, mechanical failure, and the physics of one of the most extreme ocean environments on Earth. The disturbing footage from the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle isn't footage of Atlantis or alien structures. It's footage of ships, real ships, ships full of real people who made voyages they didn't come back from, not because a mystical force took them, but because the ocean is vast and merciless and indifferent, and we are very, very small. That, to me, is the genuinely disturbing part, not the myth, the truth. And honestly, maybe that's part of why the Bermuda Triangle still fascinates people nearly a century later. Not because it's proof of aliens or sea monsters or some hidden portal in the Atlantic, but because it sits at the intersection of real danger and human imagination. The ocean in that region is genuinely unforgiving. Storms can appear fast. Currents can erase evidence in hours. Depths can swallow wreckage so completely that recovery becomes almost impossible. And when you combine that with incomplete records, vanished ships, and stories passed down across generations, you end up with a mystery that keeps reinventing itself every decade. The legends survive because the setting itself already feels cinematic. And maybe that's what makes the Bermuda Triangle so compelling in the first place. The fact that the truth is already eerie enough without needing anything supernatural added to it. If this kind of honest, science-backed breakdown is the content you want more of, subscribe, because we're going to keep doing exactly this, peeling back the legend, finding the real story, and refusing to let the truth get buried under the mythology. Drop a comment below. What's the next big unsolved mystery you want us to investigate? I'll read every single one.